insane Booster 19 has become the very first Super Heavy version 3 to successfully survive 3 extreme tests at Massey's site. With that milestone, Booster 19 is now set to return to the production site, bringing Flight 12 closer than ever. So, what exactly did B-19 have to endure at Massey's site? And what critical steps still remain before it finally rolls out to the launch pad? Let's break it all down in today's episode of Alpha Tech. Since the Booster 18 incident, SpaceX has overhauled its testing procedures in a far more disciplined and rigorous way. And Booster 19 is the clearest example of that shift. After rolling out to Massey's site on February 1st, SpaceX moved quickly. Almost immediately, the team began an ambient pressure test using gaseous nitrogen running continuously overnight, from late on February 1st into the early hours of February 2nd. The purpose of this test was to pressurize the main tanks, the COPVs, and the valve systems at ambient temperature. Engineers were checking for leaks, valve actuation issues, and overall structural integrity. This is the same test that Booster 18 failed catastrophically last November, when a COPV ruptured, punched through the chine, and set off a chain reaction that breached the LOX tank and destroyed the vehicle. With Booster 19, however, the ambient test was completed successfully. No anomalies were observed either on live streams or in reports from the Starbase community. At that point, the SpaceX team likely felt some relief, but what followed is where things become more interesting. Shortly after the test concluded, technicians returned to the vehicle and removed a section of the rear chine for closer inspection. This area houses the COPVs and is believed to be the root location of the Booster 18 failure. Camera footage shows a careful and deliberate process. Panels were removed and engineers inspected the base of the COPVs, likely using non-destructive inspection techniques to look for micro cracks or internal damage within the composite structure. This was not a sign of trouble. Instead, it appears to be part of an upgraded post-test inspection process implemented after the B-18 incident. That process now includes additional inspections following ambient testing, COPV-specific proof checks, and new non-destructive evaluation methods designed to catch damage that would have been extremely difficult to detect in the past. After just a few hours, the chine section was reinstalled cleanly, and Booster 19 moved on to preparations for its second test, a partial cryogenic proof test. That test took place on February 2nd, marking B-19's first exposure to cryogenic conditions. SpaceX loaded a partial amount of liquid oxygen into the main LOX tank, and likely a smaller amount into the methane landing tank and downcomer. The vehicle was then held at stable pressure for several hours before being detanked. Clear frost lines formed along the lower portion of the LOX tank, with a thinner band appearing around the common dome. This is a strong indication that the plumbing insulation and tank structure handled cryogenic temperatures exactly as expected. Tests like this allow engineers to verify that thermal insulation, cryogenic feed lines, and structural elements remain free from leaks, abnormal contraction, or unexpected deformation. Just as importantly, it confirms that sensors continue to operate accurately at extreme temperatures, roughly minus 183 degrees Celsius, for liquid oxygen and minus 162 degrees for methane. If anything were off, such as a valve failing to fully close or insulation developing cracks, it would be caught here early, rather than appearing during the far more demanding full cryogenic proof test. That test took place on the night of February 4th. On that night, SpaceX fully loaded both primary tanks. The main oxygen tank was filled with real liquid oxygen all the way to maximum load. Meanwhile, the methane tank was filled with cryogenic nitrogen. This allowed engineers to push the structure to its limits while avoiding the fire and explosion risks normally associated with methane. Frost lines quickly formed from the base of the booster up to the common dome, giving Booster 19 the appearance of a frozen sculpture, the kind you would not want to touch for more than a second. The test was extreme enough that SpaceX relied on remotely operated drones for close-up monitoring, keeping personnel at a safe distance throughout the operation. And the results were impressive. Booster 19 held proof-level pressure steadily for roughly 8 hours before detanking smoothly with no visible issues. What makes this test especially important is that it was more demanding than the conditions B-19 will experience during an actual Flight 12 mission. Passing it strongly suggests that the booster's structure is fully qualified for real flight. Even more notably, this marked the first true full-fill cryogenic test on a super heavy booster since Booster 9 back in 2023. Thanks to major upgrades at Massey's outpost, including higher capacity pumps and an expanded tank farm, as SpaceX can now perform full cryogenic loads, something that simply was not possible before. Completing 3 major tests in less than a week perfectly reflects SpaceX's signature iteration speed. After the COPV failure on Booster 18 in November 2025, procedures were upgraded, hardware was refined, and the testing campaign evolved. It is a clear example of SpaceX getting better and faster with every single cycle. Assuming the post-test inspections and review reports from all 3 tests come back, Clean SpaceX is expected to move quickly. In the coming days, we're likely to see road closures announced to clear the way for rolling the 70-meter-tall booster back to Mega Bay, one Starbase's primary integration facility. That's where Booster 19 will receive its full set of 33 Raptor 3 engines, the more powerful and more efficient variant developed specifically for Block 3 vehicles. This will be the first time a Super Heavy version 3 is outfitted with a complete Raptor 3 engine set, featuring a redesigned thrust chamber, upgraded turbopumps, and improvements aimed squarely at reusability. Naturally, everyone is eager to see what this next-generation engine layout actually looks like, and the wait shouldn't be long. Once engine installation is complete, Booster 19 is expected to roll out again, this time heading to Pad 2, the newly completed launch pad at Starbase. Pad 2 comes with a heavily upgraded tank farm, and signs of that infrastructure coming online are already visible. Late on the night of February 5th, a brand new tank arrived at the site, staging near the mega bunker, before being moved into position at the tank farm the following morning. At the same time, SpaceX has been actively testing the ship quick disconnect arm on Pad 2, cycling it through its full range of motion to validate precision and mechanical flexibility. The deluge system has also been pushed hard. During recent tests, the detonation suppression system released massive torrents of water, validating plume and acoustic suppression for all 33 engines. Once positioned on Pad 2, Booster 19 is expected to enter an extended integrated test campaign. This could include additional tanking tests with real propellants to verify plumbing integrity and valve performance under near-flight conditions, spin prime tests to confirm proper turbopump behavior, and most importantly, static fire testing. That static fire campaign will likely begin with a smaller subset of engines, possibly 3, 6, or 13, to validate thrust vector control before ramping up to a full 33-engine static fire. That final test will serve as the ultimate ground-based stress test, closely simulating liftoff forces while validating the booster's thrust structure, the flame trench, and Pad 2's upgraded water suppression system. A full-duration, full-thrust static fire won't just qualify Booster 19 for flight, it will also effectively commission Pad 2 for the next phase of Starship launches. Now, let's shift back to the production site just a short distance away, where there's some genuinely exciting news unfolding. SpaceX is clearly accelerating work on Booster 20 and Ship 40. The duo slated to fly on Starship Flight 13, the mission where SpaceX is targeting a ship catch by Mechazilla. Late on the night of February 5th, Ship 40's nose cone officially entered the stacking phase, being mated with the forward dome section inside Mega Bay 2. In the days leading up to that, key components, including the nose cone and the payload, Bay had already been moved into Mega Bay 2, setting the stage for rapid integration. Most notably, the PEZ dispenser system, SpaceX's candy-like satellite deployment mechanism, has now been fully installed inside Ship 40's payload bay. On February 4th, the installation stand used to mount the PEZ dispenser was removed from Mega Bay 2, a clear sign that the system is now permanently integrated into the vehicle. This is a major milestone. The PEZ dispenser is designed to deploy dozens of Starlink version 3 satellites per flight, and its early appearance on Ship 40 strongly suggests SpaceX is seriously preparing for high-cadence commercial missions. At the same time, Ship 40's forward dome and additional ring sections have also moved into stacking position. The pace has been impressive just days after major sections were transferred from the factory to the Mega Bay. This points to the Star Factory production line hitting a steady rhythm, with Ship 40 clearly being prioritized for early integration, check system testing, and eventual static fire preparations. Over on the booster side, things are heating up as well. Around February 5th, 2026, the first section of Booster 20's liquid oxygen tank was rolled into Mega Bay 1, and positioned for stacking a clear signal that Booster 20 assembly has officially begun. Also at Starbase, SpaceX has just received formal approval from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and NOAA to move forward with a major expansion of the launch complex. The approved plan covers roughly 21 acres of adjacent land, including portions of wetlands and tidal flats along Boca Chica Bay. This didn't happen overnight. Back in September 2025, SpaceX submitted a permit application aimed at expanding infrastructure around the launch site. The objective was straightforward: support ongoing upgrades and prepare Starbase for a much higher launch cadence. That includes new staging zones, expanded tank farms, upgraded deluge and suppression systems, and additional ground support equipment needed for frequent Starship operations. Because the project affects environmentally sensitive wetlands, SpaceX was required to carry out compensatory mitigation, essentially preserving or acquiring land elsewhere to offset the environmental impact through mitigation credits. After completing an essential fish habitat review, along with several other assessments, NOAA Acting Assistant Regional Administrator Thomas Payson Wilbur formally notified the USACE Galveston District, led by Colonel Rhett Blackman, that NOAA had no remaining objections or requested changes. That notification effectively served as the final green light. The same approval letter was later shared by Robinson in a recent tweet, alongside images showing newly installed security cameras along the expanded boundary, and notes suggesting construction could begin as early as February 14th, and almost immediately activity on the ground confirmed it. As documented by Starship Gazer, silt fencing went up along the new perimeter right away. These temporary barriers are used to clearly mark the approved expansion zone, control sediment runoff, and ensure environmental compliance during construction. Images from multiple observers show crews actively installing fencing to make room for 2 new staging pads, a deluge farm, and additional support infrastructure. Overlay maps frequently shared by observers, including those from C. Robinson Jr., line up cleanly with what's now visible on site, outlining areas such as the Hex Tank Farm, Expansion Deflector Farm, staging pads, blast walls, expanded tank farms, LNG equipment, and controlled access gates.